So the last time I was reading, Hamlet and Chullock were about to embark on their journey, so let's see how they get on. Chullock and Hamlet walked all night, and when morning came they slept in a little valley under some thick trees. They woke up in the afternoon, and while Hamlet browsed on the leaves, Chullock went to the nearest village to ask the way to the Emerald Lake. He came back with an armful of bananas and some news. "Guess what, Hamlet? We're in luck. This is the night of the full moon. The water goddess comes out of the lake and grants people's wishes. Could it be better, my boy? Finish your leaves and let's be moving." They weren't the only people going to the Emerald Lake. The jungle paths were busy with families carrying picnic baskets, and even a troop of monkeys was heading in the same direction. Just before the sun set, Chullock and Hamlet saw a young man busily pinning up notices on the trees beside the path. Chullock was about to read one when the young man caught sight of him. "Hey, I know you," he said. "And him?" "We know lots of people," said Chullock. "Is this the right way for the Emerald Lake?" "Just along there. Here, can I—" The young man looked bashful. Chullock knew what he wanted. "Kneel down, Hamlet," he said. "Customer." Hamlet couldn't say anything with the young man there, but he gave Chullock a severe look as he knelt down. The young man daubed something on Hamlet's side with a stick and some mud and gave Chullock a coin. "Thanks," he said. "Wait till I tell the boss." And he ran off. Chullock read what he'd written. "Eat at Rambashi's Jungle Grille." "Rambashi?" Chullock said. "I've got an uncle Rambashi. He used to be a chicken farmer." The notice on the trees were advertising the Jungle Grille as well. It was opening that very night, and there were meals at half price if you brought in a voucher from one of the notices. "That would be nice to see Uncle Rambashi again," Chullock said. "Come on, it'll be dark in a minute." They hurried on. Soon they came out of the shores of the Emerald Lake. Under the trees at the edge of the water there stood some houses on stilts with cooking fires and coloured lanterns. And as the tropical darkness covered the sky in less than 5 minutes, Chullock and Hamlet entered the village. Naturally, a white elephant with an advertisement written on him caused a sensation, and soon Chullock and Hamlet were being followed by a crowd of excited children and some older people with nothing else to do. Even the troop of dancers getting into their costumes for the ceremony couldn't resist, and the dancing mistress had to run after them with her mouth full of safety pins to pull them back and scold them. "Which way to Rambashi's Jungle Grille?" Chullock asked, and someone pointed along the shore to where a wooden building stood on stilts over the water. There was a terrace with coloured flags and tables with checkered tablecloths and lamps made out of wine bottles, and a cloud of smoke was coming from the kitchen, and the sounds of sizzling and bubbling and the smell of grilling meat and fish and spices. "Just in time, Hamlet. What do you think of that? And that's Uncle Rambashi," said Chullock. Rambashi, wearing a white apron over his tartan sarong, was ushering some customers onto the terrace when he saw Chullock. "Chullock, my boy! How delightful to see you! And your friend, your pet, this excellent mobile advertising billboard. Come in, dear boy. Voucher? Oh, don't bother with that. Free food for everyone, in honour of the ceremony of the full moon. Of course I'll lose money on it, but we'll soon make it up. Wonderful publicity." "Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Free meals tonight." "What about us?" said a waiter. "When do we get our supper?" "Customers first," said Rambashi. "You and the boys can have as much as you like later on." "I thought you were in the chicken business," said Chullock, tucking into a big plate of prawns and rice in satay sauce. "Yes, but I had to give that up. I felt sorry for the hens, Chullock. So we took to the transport business for a while. River taxi, you know, with some freelance work on the side. But then came the opportunity to invest in the restaurant trade, where my talents truly lie, Chullock. Yes, madam, our grilled lake trout is exquisite tonight. May I suggest some saffron rice to accompany it, and a flask of jasmine wine? Yes, all free, no charge, compliments of the house." The Jungle Grille was certainly doing good business, or would have been if Rambashi had been charging for it. "I hope he knows what he's doing, Hamlet," Chullock said, as the elephant browsed quietly on the banyan tree that overspread the terrace. "He reckons it'll be such good publicity that they'll come back when he starts charging. I'm not so sure. Still, the food's good. Smoky, but tasty." Rambashi's cook was having trouble with the grill, which he kept having to throw water over when it got too hot. Clouds of smoke and steam kept billowing out, and the waiters rushed to and fro with full plates and dirty plates with flasks of wine and menus and coconuts full of ice cream. Meanwhile, the village elders were preparing the lakeshore for the full moon ceremony. Chullock and Hamlet, full of supper, wandered along to have a look. The sand was swept and smooth, lanterns were hung in the trees, and blossoms of all colours were scattered on the water. The path from the temple to the lake was crowded several deep on either side, and Chuluk had to climb on Hamlet's back in order to see. Then the ceremony began. A great drum sounded 3 times, and an orchestra began to play. Gongs and xylophones and drums and cymbals and flutes. A line of dancers came out of the temple and swayed down the path towards the lake, their fingernails snapping and clicking like fireflies, and their golden skirts shimmering in the lantern light. The headman of the village struck a light and lit a scented candle in a paper boat, which he floated out onto the lake. The incense made the air sweet and rich. Very soon, other paper boats were floating out to join it, and then a little child pointed at the treetops on the far side of the dark lake and said, "Moon." The full moon was rising, and as it rose, the music rose too, the gongs and the xylophones and the cymbals all summoning the goddess from the lake. And then she was there, though no one had seen her arrive. It was as if she'd come when they were looking away, and when they looked back they saw her, though no one had really looked away. She was floating to the shore on a raft of water lilies, a beautiful lady in a robe the colour of the moon, the silver rings and amulets, and a necklace of jasmine flowers. One after another, the villagers bowed to her and asked her help. This woman for a sick child, that man for a good harvest, these lovers for a blessing on their marriage. The goddess rebuked some for asking too much, though she never refused anyone in need. When they had all finished and the goddess was about to depart, Chuluk gathered his wits and shook his head, because he was a little dazzled by her beauty, and he thrust his way to the water's edge and knelt down. "Goddess," he said, "please hear me too." But before the goddess could answer, Hans took him roughly and hauled him away. "What are you doing, stranger?" "Away with him, defiling the lake." "Who is he? Who gave him permission?" "Stone him, turn him out." Chuluk struggled. He could see Hamlet raising his trunk and shifting his feet, and he knew the elephant was getting angry. "No," he cried, "listen, I've got a special request. Just let me ask the goddess." The high priest looked down, frowning. His face was shadowed and stern. "How dare you come to this sacred place," he said. "The goddess of the lake is not to be disturbed by your frivolous requests. Take him away. No, she shall not hear you. Be thankful we let you go with your life. Take him to the village boundary, and if he comes back, kill him." Oh, I wonder what's going to happen in chapter 4.